Welcome to Real Talk, where I give real answers to real questions from real worship leaders. If you are a real worship leader with a real question and you want a real answer, head right here and submit your question for a future episode. Got some good questions this week? Let's talk about it. I was recently asked to start leading worship at my church for our 11 a.m. service, as our current leader would be taking a leave of absence for health issues. I typically play piano on rotation for our 9 a.m. traditional service. I was all but too happy for the change. I typically go back and listen to the musical worship on our live stream to see what works well and what areas need improvement. Our tech team are not well trained, and there have been a lot of issues specifically with sound balance in spite of sound checks before the service. It's horrible, and it makes good sound bad and bad sound worse, and it's almost like whoever's running it chooses who they want to stand out. I brought this up to our assistant pastor, who is in charge of the tech team. His response was that they are aware that better training is needed, but the focus of online streaming is message over music. Wait, I thought all of it was the message. I feel that if the music worship is bad, then we risk losing folks before we get started. Am I wrong about that? I've listened to you say on numerous occasions that worship should be about lifting up and praising God and giving our congregation something they can respond to, and it needs to edify and unite us. Part of the issue here is that our other worship leader did not review the live stream that I'm aware of, and that just allowed things to get worse. The music team was falling apart before our very eyes, and our pastor knew it. I'd had a couple of conversations with him about it, so when our leader decided to take a break, the whole team was basically let go due to un-Christ-like behavior. This was in May. I was to do it until August. That time has been extended until the end of the year. I know I kind of got off task here, but wanted you to kind of get an idea of how things were up to now. And now I see that worship isn't seen as being important to the online community when in fact it's a commandment. How would you handle this? There's a lot there, and it sounds like you're frustrated. I get the sense that you're frustrated. I shouldn't laugh. It's just, I think it seems to me that you aren't just frustrated with the sound on the live stream. Like, let's be honest. That's really, I don't know. That's not that big of a deal that you would be this frustrated over. I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg, that there's probably more frustration underneath this. So I can only address the live stream part of it specifically because that's all you really talked about. But it seems to me you're frustrated with the organizational structure of your church, and you think that you should be, it sounds like you think that you should have some say in what the live stream sounds like at the very least, which maybe you're right as the worship leader. Maybe that should fall under your responsibility. I guess it's kind of weird to me because, like, you used to play in the traditional service. Now you're leading at what I assume you call it the 11 o'clock service. I assume that's like the contemporary service or something. And you're, like, just filling in. So, to me, it sounds like it's not really your responsibility to worry about this stuff. You might be frustrated with it because you're like, I want the live stream to sound good. But at the end of the day, you said it was your associate pastor's responsibility. And I assume an associate pastor, like, they're pretty high up in the authority structure of the church. They're probably the ones setting the vision for ministry in your church. And so it just seems to me like, I don't know, it might be frustrating for you. I don't know if it's a battle that you need to fight. Here's sort of my thing, and part of this goes to my philosophy of live streaming, which I gotta admit biases my answer for you, is that, like, I agree with your pastor in some sense. I don't think that he said it in this way, but this might be what he means. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But, like, when he says it's the message over the, what did he say? Oh, I see what he's saying. The focus of online streaming is message over music. Here's what I kind of take from that, because this is what I think. Like, online streaming is a supplement, not a place for people to land, in my mind. Like, it is never my goal to create such an amazing online experience that people think I can just stay at home and I can worship the same as I do when I actually come to church. Because it's not the same thing. I'll say it very boldly, but online church is not church. And I really believe that, because the church is us gathered together. It's not one person sitting in their home with their laptop or their phone or pull it up on their smart TV. It's sitting there ingesting whatever is happening, whatever we have provided for them. It is us coming together to participate together, to glorify God, but also to edify each other. And a person sitting alone in their living room watching a screen is not edifying anybody else. And so I say that because of that, because I don't believe that online church is actually a church service, I should say. I'm not putting as much time into it either. Like, yes, it's useful if somebody goes away on vacation or if there's a shut-in who can't make it to church. But we can't act like watching a service on a screen is the same as gathering with the gathered body of believers. And so I just lay that out for you because I kind of get the sense maybe that's what your pastor's saying, maybe not, maybe I'm reading into things. But if that's what your pastor believes about the live stream, then they aren't going to care that much about it. Like, you're like, my sound team, they need more training, and my pastor knows this. And it's like, if you're coming to them and you just keep bringing this up, and it's like, I know they need help, and you're like, the sound team sucks, let's fix that. It's like, I know they need help, but I'm not focused on specifically the live stream sound right now because I don't really care that much about it, right? We can't care about it, everything. We have bandwidth in ministry, and I'm speaking from somebody who is a leader in the church, as you are to some degree as well. Like, imagine if maybe you use a music stand to lead worship, and somebody came up to you and said, hey, why do you use a music stand? Like, it would be so much better if you didn't use a music stand and you actually knew your worship music and had it memorized. Like, you would be offended by that, right? And you would be like, well, I mean, I get your point. Like, I would love to have my music memorized, but I just don't have the bandwidth for that, right? Like, it's the same conversation. We all have things that we're focused on in ministry, and maybe your pastor just doesn't see that as the most important thing to focus on right now, because in my view, it's probably not. Maybe there's other things going on in your church that he has to focus on, and training the sound team to adjust the sound on the live stream that 3 people watch. I don't know how many people watch it at your church, but in a lot of churches, we spend so much time like focusing on how do I get like the cinematic look to my live stream so that 3 people can watch it. It's just like an incredible waste of time. And I don't know. Like, just it's different in different contexts. Maybe a bunch of people watch your service online. Just maybe my advice to you is like, I don't know. Just it's not your responsibility. If it's not your responsibility, let it go. I mean, you want to go back and you listen and you're like, it doesn't sound as good as it could. Is it passable? Is it just not like up to the level of some of the other larger churches in your area and you're frustrated because of that? Like, the purpose of a live stream from a ministry perspective is set by the leadership in your church. And if they don't see it as that important, probably not something to fight over. Like, let's save our relational currency for bigger problems in the church. I know that's probably not the answer that you were looking for. And maybe part of it is you provide a solution. Instead of just going to the pastor and saying, this is wrong, fix it. It's like, well, let me figure out what needs to be done. And I'll put in a little work. If this is that important to me, I'm going to sit down and figure out, man, like, we could do this, this, and this to improve, or just one thing. Maybe instead of using the main out from the soundboard and just taking whatever's happening in the room, we split it up into different aux sends so that we at least get a little bit of control over the different volume levels in the live stream. I don't know, something like that. If it's that important to you, then find a solution and offer that solution to somebody who can do something about it. How to handle a worship team member that is good on their instrument but weak on vocals, but do not want to hurt their feelings when you prefer they only play their instrument. First of all, Lee, it's not an odd question. I think it's a great question because I can foresee a situation where somebody joins the team and they play acoustic guitar and they're like, I want to sing too, and so they start singing, and it's like, I love your acoustic playing, but you cannot sing. or maybe it's with the keyboard or whatever. And so I think the conversation is just the same that I would tell somebody to have with a team member who maybe they're just a singer and they can't sing, right? Maybe in that case, it's like, you're not a good singer. I'm not sure how you ended up on the team in the first place, which is why we need a process to vet people before they get on the team so we don't end up having to have these conversations. But the conversation you have is like, hey, I mean, I love your guitar playing, but I think that your vocals could use a little bit of work. And I would love to work on that with you and strengthen that. And then once, you get to a certain point, I'll have you lead songs again or something like that. And I get this, we don't want to hurt people's feelings. But I think if we come at it from the right perspective, I don't think we're going to hurt people's feelings. Like, they might be disappointed. They might be like, I didn't know. But I think if we walk alongside them, obviously they're musical in some sense if they can play guitar or keyboard or whatever they're playing. So I would hope that they would have some shot of being able to sing as well. Usually people are at least a little bit musical vocally if they can play an instrument. And they're probably willing to put in the work as well. So just sit down with them, walk alongside them and say, I feel like your vocals aren't quite at a place right now where you should be leading a song, but I'd love to work with you to get you to that place. And then actually work with them to help them get to that place. That's what I would do. I'm thinking if I have someone on my team, they play guitar, but they can't sing, but they want to sing, I would say, let's just play guitar right now. And, I think about this, I've kind of had it in the opposite direction. There's somebody on my team who could sing, but wasn't quite ready to play guitar, but they just self-selected, and they were like, you know what, this is too difficult for me to do both of them at the same time. So I'll just focus on the one that I'm better at. So hopefully there's some self-awareness as well, and this person doesn't think that they're amazing. In fact, I'll link down below a video I made sort of about this topic, about somebody who can't sing on your worship team. I don't remember the name of the video, but the concept was, should I just mute this person, or should I kick them off the team, or what should I do? So I'll link that down below, and you can get a lot more information about what you should do in this situation, and just kind of take what I talk about in that video and apply it to the understanding that this person's still going to be on your worship team, but you just have to work with them, or maybe tell them, I'd prefer you just play guitar or keyboard or whatever right now. Now, if you want to protect yourself from being in those sorts of situations, one of the ways you can do that is have a good, solid system for getting people onto your worship team, where you actually vet their, most importantly, spiritual life, but also musical skills, so that you get them plugged in the right way. And that's why I put together the worship team toolkit. I'll link that down in the description below. In that toolkit, you'll find the worship team code of conduct that I hand to all my new team members, but also the application form that I give to people who want to join the team. They have to fill it out, and then I do an interview and an audition with them. And that way they can say, hey, I want to do guitar and I want to do vocals, and then they show up and they audition for your team, and you're like, hey, you were really good with guitar. I'm not sure you're there on vocals yet. It's a lot easier to have these conversations beforehand than to get them on the team and have them afterwards. So check that out down in the description below. You'll find everything in the worship team toolkit that you need to create that system. Other than that, thanks so much for joining me. Till I see you in the next video, keep leading worship well.